What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
Aaron and Sean here from the Bitcoin Bros. We're going to be getting into strategy updates, Bitcoin updates, getting into our thoughts on the market right now, where everything is going, why you shouldn't be panicked. We'll be going into all that in today's video. And we do these live streams every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to tune in, subscribe if you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitter, make sure to follow us. Also streaming on Rumble as well. So subscribe to any of the channels that you guys are on. And everything we talk about in today's video is not financial advice. This is all just our opinion. We are just investors who have been investing for combined over a decade now in the Bitcoin, crypto, and financial space. So just giving you guys our thoughts. Getting into Bitcoin strategy, and we're going to start with the charts here. Sean's going to get into the charts. That's how we normally start. We'll go into our different topics after that. So, Sean, if you want to go ahead and pull up the charts, we can go ahead and take a look.
Okay, give me one quick second.
And if you guys are on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button. Helps these videos get pushed out to more people who don't even know what Bitcoin or MicroStrategy is yet. So make sure to do that as well.
Yeah, make sure you guys go ahead and definitely smash that like button, share with friends, family, retweet, repost on X. We appreciate all the support. So getting straight into it, not much has changed. We've been in the channel as far as the chart goes. We do this every week, so I'm not going to go into that much detail, but we'll zoom in on the price action, and let's look on the lower time frame. Let's look on the 2-day. And right now there is some divergences, some bearish divergences that are playing out, but there's definitely some bullish setups as well. And as we had mentioned, looking at this chart here, we have just been in this channel since about July 12th in the range of about 117, and the candle bodies down to about 119. So we want to see a 2-day candle close above the $119,000 threshold. And this looks like some type of, flag pattern that could be set up for the next target to the upside. We've talked about this in some of our previous videos, around 130 to 135,000. That could be what's in the card. So we're not going to dwell on this too much. Could we break down from this? That could be a possibility. That could be a bullish retest of previous resistance, this level here around the $110,000 range. We hit our head on this once, twice. Third time was a charm. We blasted through. So could we actually fall out of this and come back down before the continuation? That's definitely a possibility. Just because it's a bear market doesn't mean everything's going to go up and to the right. We do get pullbacks as we've experienced already. So that's what we see. I'm not going to dwell too much on that chart. Let's look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. This is a chart to pay attention to. And there was a lot of altcoins last week that we talked about. Ethereum has woken up. A lot of alts was outpacing Bitcoin. And as we've seen and talked about in previous videos, we've seen the dominance fall from about 66%. And from that fall, we went down about 6% at 60.5%. But looking at this channel, since we've been on this uptrend as far as dominance goes, we've just been sort of stair-stepping our way. I know this is a messy chart, so forgive us. I'll try to clean it up. But if you look at these moving averages, this is on the weekly, you see that the 20 crossed over both the 250, and the price has been, for the most part, respecting it. We fell through the 20, quite a few times, once there, twice, 3 times. And then right now, this is the 4th time. But we've just steadily been putting in higher highs and higher lows. So the question is will this low hold, and will this trend break? And if we see some price action like this when it comes to Bitcoin dominance, this fall down will be the alt season that a lot of people are waiting for, similar to right here. And looking back into the charts, the 2017 alt cycle right there, it's all the same. But you see that each one of these cycles, looking on the macro time frame, we came back up and retested this level here, the 70 range, once, twice, 3 times. So the big question is, are we just going to stair step our way up to the 70 range? And then what happens when we get up there? Will we get another fall down for alt season? Will this have some type of macro inverse head and shoulders pattern that could play? And forgive me, I know this chart's getting messy. Let me get rid of all these drawings because it's doing way too much right now. So just so you guys can visualize it, this could be some type of macro inverse head and shoulders pattern. If we hold this 70 line and we come up to here, get a retracement, we see that right shoulder formation, and that could be extremely bullish for Bitcoin. We could get a retracement down from here for another alt season. Or this, if you look at this on the macro, this is another, sorry, I could use the horizontal line. I'm just rushing through it, but we could stair step our way up towards the 70 range. This right here is a textbook Adam and Eve pattern, which when we break that 70 range, there is a parabolic run up. So in this scenario here, altcoins would get decimated. I know everybody doesn't want to hear that, but that's the truth. But the main level to pay attention to, if Bitcoin does stair step its way up and get back above this 20 moving average, which is back around the 63.5 range, is that 70 range. What we do when we get to that level is very important. Do we get rejected and fall down, or do we actually break through it this time? That's something to definitely pay attention to. So before I move on to strategy, is there anything, Aaron, that you wanted to weigh in on the Bitcoin dominance?
Yeah, for the Bitcoin dominance, I think one thing that people should be looking for in terms of what's going on in the macroeconomic or macro environment is with what's going on with interest rates and what's going on with what the Federal Reserve is doing. I think once we get some potential interest rate cuts, or if we get some more liquidity into the market, if the Federal Reserve starts to buy assets, what they've been doing, they've been selling off their balance sheet for the past couple of years since 2022, and they've continued to do that. And interest rates haven't been lowered since last year. I think once that happens, that's maybe when we could see the next move up for altcoins, maybe an altcoin season. I think right now, in my personal opinion, I think what we're seeing right now is just not a full altcoin season, but just a little dip in the Bitcoin dominance. But I believe we're headed higher. I think what could change that in the future is I think people should look for what's going on in the macro once there's more money in the economy for people to go out and speculate on some of the altcoins. But getting into altcoins right now, my personal opinion is just buy Bitcoin. It's going to be millions of dollars someday, not financial advice. Don't think alt season's here yet.
Yeah, and if you guys don't understand Bitcoin and you're trying to trade this market or get into this market, you really need to just have a firm grasp of understanding of what Bitcoin is, and the scarcity behind it, and all factors considered. Because you're not going to understand any Bitcoin treasury plays. You're not going to really understand the alt market if you really don't understand the base level of Bitcoin. So we're not really seeing retail show up just right now. There was a lot of inflows that was happening with the ETF, the ETH ETF specifically. And we did see an uptick in the Bitcoin search as far as Google Trends go. Let me share this really quick. If you look at this here, altcoins actually started to go parabolic to the upside, and it's still trending up towards 100 at 85. So this is sentiment that retail is waking up for the alt market. So look at the alt market, and then let's do a search for Bitcoin. This is worldwide over the past 5 years. You see how we're almost in the floor, when, this is like bear market territory. No peak euphoria like back in November or back in the 2021 alt season. So something to definitely pay attention to there. I think the next thing we'll talk about is strategy. because there was some news.
Before we get in, one quick follow up there though is the alts. I don't think would do too good until we get that fiscal, financial easing. But I think Ethereum could do well because of what we're seeing in the ETFs right now. We're seeing people like Tom Lee, a lot of institutional investors listen to him, and there's companies that have Ethereum on the balance sheet right now. And if you look at the Ethereum ETFs, it has a lot of flows this past week, and I think that's because of what Tom Lee said. So we may see Ethereum do well, but not even see an alt season. I think that could be a potential for the rest of the year.
So let's share this tab here. And this was as of late. Trump was taking a tour of the Federal Reserve. He made a comment to Jerome, basically saying that you should cut rates. So, what's going to come of this? Why is he taking tours? Will something be announced in the next FOMC? We'll see. But there is a little bit of back and forth. I'm not going to play it on here for you guys, but just wanted to share that. This was one of the, I guess it's happened recently, past couple hours. Just speaking on those rate cuts that Aaron had mentioned. But did you want to, I'm going to stop this. Did you want to share and start talking about the news with strategy?
Yes, I can see if I can pull it up here. Strategy has its new offering, STRC. What is it called? Stretch Intelligence? I believe it's called Stretch.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, Stretch.
Oh, yeah. So it's on Stretch. Let me share my tab here. And they did an IPO for an initial $500 million. As you can see right here, their IPO was $500 million for Stretch, and it got upsized to $2 billion. And as of most recent activity, it actually got upsized to $2.5 billion. And with Stretches, they're targeting the fixed income market. It's going to be a little bit different than STRF. So now they have STRF, STRD, STRK, and now STRC. In my opinion, I think STRC is most similar to STRF, but it's going to be more of a fixed dividend where the share price doesn't really change. You're going to get an additional 9% every single year, or 9% APY. And this is telling right here with this IPO, it's at $2.5 billion right now. And if you looked at what the IPO was for the other offerings, STRK, STRF, STRD, all three of those together didn't get as much as STRC has gotten in terms of inflow. So STRD, and these numbers are from ChatGPT, so correct me if I'm wrong, but STRD did $212 million in the initial IPO. STRF did $711 million, and STRK did $563 million. So I think they may have found a really useful product here that people really want in their portfolios, and they may even be flipping out from some of these other products like STRK or STRF to get STRC. So this $2.5 billion, this is a $2.5 billion buy that's going to be coming from Strategy, probably within the next week or so. So that's another around 20 to 25,000 Bitcoin on top of the stack that they already have. And if you look at how much money that is, $2.5 billion, I mean, they're buying entire treasury companies, like treasury companies that are copying the strategy playbook. They're buying as much as they have in just a single offering in a week. So it goes to show you that strategy is still the biggest player in the space, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And I personally think that strategy is undervalued right now, especially at the MNAV is super low. And people complain that we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'll let you go ahead and talk more into STRC here if you want to.
Yeah. Hold that thought about the complaints. Before we continue, guys, if you haven't liked, share this, retweet. We appreciate the support once again. But yeah, with this offering that they raised at $2.5 billion, just with this by itself, at the current price, It'll get about another 20,000 Bitcoin for strategy. So that's, to Aaron's point, there's, I think in the top 10, most treasuries don't have 20,000 Bitcoin yet. So just put that in perspective, the liquidity that Saylor is able to basically get in the first day of offering this. It gets upscaled, upsold, and all of the above. So, it's history in the making right there. But also when it comes to the fixed income market, you're talking about dividends. Let me share my screen really quick because I just wanted to show the use case for Stretch, just so people can get a holistic understanding of why this offering is actually game changing for just markets in general. Give me one quick second. I got way too many windows opened. Bear with me one moment. I apologize, guys. I'm having technical difficulties in trying to find the right tab.
Yeah, and it's crazy because while you're doing that, they're buying 20 to 25,000 Bitcoin, and that seems like a lot of BTC to the average person or even to any other treasury company. But for them, that's not even, I think what's it, quick math, I think it's not even 5% of their entire Bitcoin holdings.
Yeah, so this here is basically the most popular dividend-paying securities in the market right now. And as you see, Exxon coming in at number one with their yield of 3.5 to 4.5%. So if you're holding this for the dividend payouts and solely that, you might want to just consider, because if the stock trades flat or in a down year, you can basically get debased even more because this isn't even keeping up with the debasement of the dollar. Johnson & Johnson paying out about roughly 3%. O Realty, 5 to 5.5%. This is one of the most popular, O Realty, just based off the percentages. Procter & Gamble, you got between 2.4 and 2.8%. And then Broadcom, 1.8 to 2.5% dividend yield. So then some honorable mentions to talk about. Verizon, 6.5%, barely keeping up with debasement, but has slower growth. Chevron, Coke, Pfizer, but you get the picture. Like this was what Saylor has pulled together. They're going to be getting somewhere between an 8 and 9% yield year over year. And the way the vehicle is structured is it's going to sort of be, so trading sort of like a stable coin, if you may, and it's structured to compete with basically these companies right here with these dividend payouts, and it's outpacing debasement. So, if you have a large sum of money, some boomers that are retiring, and they, aren't getting that much off of their 401ks, just to put it in perspective, if you have 100K in a 401k and you need that to last you, say, 25 years at, whatever given, lifespan you're on, that's really 4,000 a year. That's not sustainable in the United States or almost anywhere. But, if you park that 100K over in Stretch, theoretically you'd be getting anywhere from 8 to 9% return year over year on that. So that'll keep compounding, go to 108 to 109, and you press that and so on and so forth. So it's very powerful. It's going to allow people more optionality when it comes to retirement. I think that's definitely a good thing. The market was definitely hungry for something like this, and it's backed and powered by Bitcoin. I wish I had that chart that had that sort of like that, how strategy has all these vehicles around like the pentagon shape, but I'll find it and post it up. But All these vehicles are sort of working off of, you have it pulled up?
I think so. This one?
No, but this depicts it, yeah, in a different way. But like you see, you have strive, stride, and strike, stretch, and all of these vehicles are working around, the MSTR ecosystem. And the stretch is literally acting like a dividend payout. That's why it's basically had more demand than these other prior preferreds that's been rolled out, just because of how it's structured. It's literally, if you got cash to park somewhere, it's acting as a high yield savings account. But that high yield is smashing any other rates out there at up to 9%. So it's definitely revolutionizing, not just in comparison to these other prefers. We're going to start seeing other Bitcoin treasury companies as this Bitcoin treasury strategy scale. We're going to see more of these offerings, and they're going to start competing with one another. So Saylor's like setting the benchmark here. Like, if you don't have something that's giving out at least 8 to 9%, then you probably should just, keep it to yourself. So it's exciting times. But it's definitely going to help, with the retirement situation with some folks. So it's definitely good stuff. Shout out to Saylor and the strategy team.
Yeah. Just to follow up there, I think people really need to realize what's kind of happening here, though, is what Saylor's really doing is he's basically re-engineering the entire financial system on Bitcoin, and it's really attacking the fiat Ponzi of they're just going to print these dollars forever to keep the economy going. If they stop printing, the economy will crash, and they're going to print forever. Trump just passed the big, beautiful bill, and his whole campaign was on, hey, we're going to cut, we're going to cut, we're going to cut. We're going to have Elon Musk come in, and we're going to make sure that spending is under control. And spend about, I don't know, it probably hasn't been even 6 months into his presidency, and they're already passing a huge spending bill. So the printing of money is never going to stop, whether it's a Democrat in office, Republican in office, or any politician in office. The printing of money is what the politicians need to stay popular and stay in control. So the dollar, looking at the M2, is going to go up forever. And you have Bitcoin, the hardest asset, which is capped at 21 million. And what Michael Saylor is doing, he realizes that, and he's just building a new financial system on top of that. And this is all very early, and people don't realize how early they are in getting into MicroStrategy. These products are really going to, I think, revolutionize the entire financial system. And it's really, really early. And I don't think people really understand how big everything he's doing right now is, because he's kind of just completely changing the entire financial structure. Why would you go and get a U.S. bond with U.S. dollars and get 2 to 3% a year when you know that you're going to be losing 10% to inflation every year? And now you can go get these products and at least keep up with inflation. So I think the average person doesn't realize what strategy is doing right now. And it's more than just number go up for the MSTR stock. These products that they're bringing out are really going to change the entire financial scene going forward into the future.
Yeah, when it comes to the bonds and T-bills, that's part of the broader fixed income market. That is what, Saylor's basically slapping in the face. And this is a way stronger way. And also, when it comes to Stripe, Strike, and Stride, those are, mainly for institutional grade investors. There is some retail that, will dip and dab in there. But those haven't been priced in. Those haven't been scaled up as far as the demand, the institutional inflows. It will in time, but, that just goes to show when Stretch came out, how high the demand is and what the real world need is present day. So, it's the market will tell you things without telling you things. So basically, Stretch is something that is past due and definitely needed in financial markets when it comes to the everyday investor. So it's definitely, this is like breaking news when it comes to, people are sleeping on, people don't even know. Like we feel that everybody knows like what's going on in the Bitcoin ecosystem, but the reality is like, your Twitter feed is based off your own personal algorithm. And if you're, watching us here or tuning into whatever other X spaces is, you're probably already in the know, and you're a small minority of people. These companies, speaking of strategy in particular, are very transparent with these offerings as they get rolled out. They basically talk about them to ad nauseum, just so, the market can understand them and ingest them. So these are not even, we're at the tip of the iceberg right now. And this is the first day that demand was, rolled out for Stretch to this scale of magnitude. It shows that, it's, this product was something that the market was, crying for. And, Saylor and team, I'm interested to see what they come out with next, because it seems like every other month or every quarter they're coming out with a new preferred offering, and it just opens up a whole new rabbit hole. And you're like, oh wow, like they're really revolutionizing how things are done in financial markets. And the beauty of it is all powered by the scarcest, most non-fungible, the highest performing asset ever known to man, and that being Bitcoin. So it's definitely exciting times. So that's the Stretch news. Is there anything else that you wanted to weigh in on that?
Nope. You want to go into MSTR, ATM usage versus the MetaPlanet moving strike warrant, ATM type vehicle usage, and when to use it?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I think that was the sentiment that you're mentioning, Aaron. Some people are getting a little pissed off with, Saylor smashing the ATM and not, maybe in some people's eyes, not having any structure when it comes to what the price is doing. Price go up, ATM, price go down, ATM. So the way you should interpret this is, zoom out on the charts. And yeah, it sucks if you put a nice investment into MSTR, the underlying common A share, and then you get ATM'd and you see your initial investment be underwater. Yeah, that sucks to see. But one thing to think of, it's zooming out on the charts and having a, what's your time horizon? Because just looking at the mathematics behind the current strategy holdings and where Bitcoin is going to be heading over the next 5 to 10 years, let's just use the benchmark that a lot of notable investors are using. Kathy Wood, Stanley Druckenmiller. A lot of people have a 7-figure Bitcoin target. Some say 1.2. Let's just use $1 million. And at the current holdings, they're a little over 600,000. I think it's 607,000 with a few Bitcoin amongst friends. So the net asset value that Saylor would have in the event that if Bitcoin's at $1 million and they don't buy any more, it'd be roughly around $600 billion in the underlying Bitcoin value. But that's just the net asset value. These equities tend to these equities tend to have a MNAV that they trade at a premium. So whatever that MNAV is, if it's a 2 MNAV, that'd be a $1.2 trillion valuation. So this is just getting started. Do you want to speak on the MetaPlanet moving strike warrant? I have to step away for a quick second.
Yeah. So my thoughts on MetaPlanet not hitting the ATM during periods of where the MNAV goes down is, my personal thoughts on it are, the MNAV really can't be controlled. It's sentiment. If the market's hot and people are investing into your company, the MNAV is going to go up. And when the market's down, if we go into a Bitcoin bear market, you're probably not going to have much of an MNAV. I personally think that strategy should continue to hit the MNAV if it's in a accretive fashion. Now, Saylor has said that he isn't going to hit the MNAV, the MSTR ATM MNAV, if the MNAV was lower than 2. He said once we get lower than 2, we really don't want to hit the MNAV because it's not as accretive. But we've seen that he's been doing that, definitely. But in my personal opinion, I mean, he's still accumulating more Bitcoin in accretive fashion. And over the long term, it'd be better for him to buy Bitcoin at $100,000 versus buying the Bitcoin at $1 million. So I believe that it's a good thing that he's buying the Bitcoin now. You always see people complain about Saylor, and they say that he always buys the top. He should wait for the dip to come, but you really can't time things like that. And I just think as long as he continues to accumulate Bitcoin in an accretive fashion, Bitcoin per share is going up, then you shouldn't really be complaining. This is just my personal opinion. And people that are worried about the MSTR share price, I think some people have just a low time frame on investments. Like some people are complaining, like there's literally people in our comment section that are complaining about MSTR stock price. And if you look at what MSTR has done year to date, it's up 40%. If you look at what MSTR has done over the past year, it's up 150%. There's not many investments that are getting you that type of return. You can park your money in the S&P, you're not getting that. 40% in a year is still a great return. It's still outperforming Bitcoin. Over the past year, it's up 150%. Over the past 5 years, it's up 3,400%. So I think a lot of people just need to like invest, tune out all the noise of everybody that wants to be on Twitter talking about Bitcoin and MicroStrategy every single day and have their own opinions on what the stock is doing on this price on this day. It's like people have short time frames. You need to zoom out, have a 3, 4, 5 year time horizon when investing, because you're not going to get rich in a year investing in anything unless you get lucky with a meme stock, and we don't talk about that on our channel. So
yeah, there's a lot of shiny golden things that are out there, especially with all these new Bitcoin treasury companies that are popping up. You got to think of it's the law of numbers, right? So, strategies at 607,000. So when you have a company that has 200 Bitcoin and a market cap of, sub 100 million, it's a lot easier for them to do a 10, 20x. So you're sort of seeing like, it's like an altcoin season, if you may, with Bitcoin treasury companies. So just when it comes to your investment thesis, if you're going to, try to arbitrage these trades, to each his own, just do your own due diligence when it comes to managing risk. But, arbitrage smartly, because, understand like, it's sort of look at it like, Bitcoin being your denominator. So, if you're playing the altcoin market with the Ethereums and Cardanos, always look at whatever that value is in Bitcoin terms, because if the dollar goes up, but your Bitcoin value is going down because Bitcoin's outpacing the underlying asset, that means you're losing Bitcoin value. So you can sort of have a similar strategy, if you may, with, MicroStrategy being the 600-pound gorilla in the room. If you're trading MetaPlanet, or if you're trading any other, H100, AltBG, any Bitcoin treasury company, you can have a long-term investment horizon, but, have that denominator. And you might want to do that with strategy, because strategy is the only one that has really been tested over time. Let's talk about MetaPlanet. They have the moving strike warrant, and they've been showing a lot of, motion as far as up and to the right and Bitcoin acquisition over the past about 15 months since they've been doing their Bitcoin treasury strategy. One thing that has happened this past week, they did not announce any buys because the MNAV dropped below 3. And Simon and Dylan have been very, very overly transparent to manage and maintain the MNAV. and it's been in a given range between 3 and 7x. So it dropped below 3, so they're not going to, dilute anymore to the downside, because that's theoretically what's going on. It's just you don't really see it as much when the price is going up. So just managing that MNAV and having that, I guess, conviction to just not buy. Like, hey, we need to just chill out. Let's just, let things reset a little bit. Like that, is sort of, what you want to see with these overall company strategies, because they can say one thing and then do something totally different than what you anticipate. And you as the shareholder can get diluted if they don't hold their word. So just when you're vetting out, all these different companies, that's, you have to see what the team is actually doing and committing to. They've been around for 15 months. Another one similar has been around for quite some time. They were number 2 to start their Bitcoin treasury company. So you can sort of have a few of these to see, what the overall trajectory is of where they want to go and how the team operates. But a lot of these treasury companies are still too new to tell. So manage risk appropriately. And back to what I was saying, that denominator, if you're going to denominate something when it comes to, traditional finance markets, denominate it in MSTR, because MSTR is the standard. They're building this ecosystem. And, there's other players that are going to be involved, and MicroStrategy is not going to be the only one, or strategy. But the point is right now they're sort of paving the way for all the players that are in the current space.
Definitely. 100% agreed. Do you want to talk about the Fidelity in-kind redemption ETF?
Yeah, before we get to that, I just seen some news that was posted on X and just want to share it, because we were just mentioning MetaPlanet, and just let me share my screen here really quick. Give me a quick second. And shout out to Vince. He's the one that reported on this. But U.S. subsidiary MetaPlanet Holdings will receive 715 million USD worth of MetaPlanet shares from MetaPlanet Treasury Corp. Another soon-to-be created U.S. subsidiary will put options income strategy. So what they're doing, they're moving over $700 million of shares from their Bitcoin-focused U.S. entity into this new Florida or U.S.-based holding company, and doing this as a contribution in kind, if you may, which means they're transferring these assets, not cash, into the new company. And why does this happen, and why does this occur? It better manages and maintains the operations on the state side. So they're going after U.S. capital, capital in the U.S. markets, which will cause all different types of inflows when it comes to this particular security. For those that don't know, MetaPlanet's a Japanese-based company. They do have OTC tickers in the U.S. and German markets, but also it helps reduce risk by separating the given business functions. One company will handle the core Bitcoin treasury strategy, and the other, which is the holding company, will handle things like, given derivatives or income generating strategies. So the preferreds for MetaPlanet is coming too. It gives them a lot of flexibility on how they report income, manage their own taxes, and it can separate, high risk activity from its core holding. So it shows that, basically this is a huge placement and offering and pivot of the overall business and restructuring of the business, if you may, to get this other entity spun up. So I just wanted to, this was sort of a brand new development that just sort of flashed across the line. And I was like, and let's just talk about it and, and see what this actually is. So MetaPlanet is coming into the U.S. market, and in more ways than one. So it's going to be interesting as this continues to manifest, and whatever passive flows they get, and if there's any inclusions in the future, we'll see. Probably not short term, but who knows? We'll see. It's definitely a lot going on in the space. So just trying to keep you guys up on everything.
Yeah, MetaPlanet's doing some pretty cool stuff there. There's a race for number 2 going on now. I saw that Marathon Digital, they are raising, I think, $800 million to buy some more Bitcoin. And then you have the company with, I think it's CEP with, what's his name? Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Adam Back. Yeah, Adam Back. I think they got 40,000 Bitcoin that they're going to be starting with. So there's some big players out there. You got Naka coming, and there's a race for number 2 right now. It's going to be interesting to see who wins it. And MetaPlanet's right there. They're going to be having a lot of Bitcoin potentially by the end of the year. And so yeah.
Yeah, let's look at this. Before we pivot to that topic that you said, let's take a look at this chart really quick, because this is going to be what that race that Aaron's talking about is going to this is going to morph as time progresses. So the top 10 public Bitcoin treasury companies, obviously, we had mentioned the 600-pound gorilla in the room, MSTR. You got Mara behind them, CEP 21, BSTR, Riot, DJT. That's President Trump's media company. And then you got MetaPlanet and Galaxy Digital. This is CleanSpark, I believe, and Tesla. So Tesla's bought this 12,000 Bitcoin for quite some time. So like Elon's just sort of been sitting on that for, some years now. And so they'll probably get pushed out unless they adopt some type of treasury strategy, if you may. But it's going to be definitely exciting to see how this chart morphs over the next 6 months, over the next year, over the next 18 months, 24 months, because these institutions are coming and they're buying up, a lot of this Bitcoin. So, yeah, MSTR is way ahead of the pack. Usain Bolt, accumulation style, 100%. Saylor's got over half of his holdings, it seemed, from like over the past, let's see, we're in July now, over the past roughly 9 months, from like November of last year to present. Like he blew through and smashed the ATM crazily. It was sort of like he knew something like was coming that people weren't anticipating. When he first started, I think it was a 21 billion plan. I think it was a 3-year window, like to spend that first 21 billion, and that the 3 years went into 3 months. So that's what, like, he already had a lead, but that just furthered the lead. So what he's seen, did he see like these Bitcoin treasury companies getting ready to, just be fighting over the Bitcoin to fight for number 2, to where he elongated his lead to where like it's almost impossible to catch him. And if anybody does catch him, it's probably going to be at a higher price, a much higher price. So they're going to really have to pay to catch him. But it might not even be feasible, like, even possible. So, yeah, this chart will be interesting moving forward.
Yeah, and then what's interesting is will strategy catch IBIT? So I think that's one we got to pay attention to. But also one thing that nobody's really talking about, I saw back in June, Trump, DJT, their company, Trump Media is trying to raise like 12 billion to buy Bitcoin. So that'd be a whole bunch of Bitcoin if they were able to pull that off. So it's a race. It's definitely a race. Like Saylor called all this though. He's like, we're gonna have a Bitcoin gold rush that lasts for like 10 years, and it's happening right now. It's like everybody's getting, it's like the first lap around the track, like first go around, first quarter.
Yeah, it's a race to see, the Bitcoin arms race. So guys, we appreciate all your support. If you guys can go ahead and share this. We're going to cut it a little short tonight because we have to have some other obligations to tend to. But as always, we are here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So, we'll be here giving you news whether things are happening or not, barring, travel and other things. So we just wanted to thank you, and we'll see you guys next week. Keep stacking hard.
See you guys.